Welcome to Flashpoint Friday, and this is our new time. You are in the right place at the right time. I can guarantee you that. We have an incredible show for you today, and I'm excited to announce that we have a full hour to provide value, stories, excitement, the highs, the lows, everything in between. I want to welcome you in today on this Friday. It is a beautiful day. It's November the 12th. The autumn season is in full swing. Changes are happening everywhere. Let's be intentional today and make those changes positive. Let's grab something from today. I have an incredible guest for you today. But before we get into that, I want to set the show up as I normally do. And I want to talk to you about our upcoming book. So let's jump in. Are you ready? Type in, I'm ready. Type in, I'm ready for something new. I'm ready for a change. I'm ready for my turnaround story. All right. The first thing that I'm going to ask you to do as a guest today is this is what matters, this present moment. We highlight this hourglass as a consistent reminder that we can't go back and live here. You know, what's done is done. We can learn from this, right? But we don't want to stay there, stuck, unconscious. We want to know that that's there to teach us. We can't live in the future worrying about the things that may happen. We want to create our big vision, but ultimately we are here. As this sand pours out of this hourglass, time is unfolding, the illusion of time, if you will, but we are in this moment. And I want you to step into this moment with me. And I want you to do one of two things. You're going to give, you're going to type in something positive, or you're going to get something that you need to take with you as you move into your Friday. The next thing we highlight here is the light bulb. This is the Thomas Edison light bulb. It's a replica. I picked it up at the exact location that the light bulb was invented. It's a reminder. You've heard the quote, I did not fail. I successfully created 10,000 ways in which the light bulb could not be invented. Let's take that enthusiasm as we move through all the things that don't work in our day, right? Let's be real. Lots of things don't go well, but we can stay enthusiastic. We can stay positive. We can know that eventually we will get to our flashpoint moment. And then lastly, we highlight the cowbell as a teaching tool. If something moves you, stokes you, provokes you, evokes you, type in cowbell. We want to highlight those learning moments that are going to happen throughout this incredible story that you're going to hear today. So I'm excited to kick this off. And as I get into this show, I'm excited to share some news with you today. We are in the process of creating our second book. It's called Your Health Turnaround. Many people have gone through so much with their health, and we've decided to get incredible people that have overcome. They've turned it around when the diagnosis, the prognosis, the analysis wasn't good, but there was something deeper. Perhaps the divine stepped in and said, no, there's more. And these incredible stories are going to be showcased in this book. So before I bring on this next guest, who's a co-author in this book, I want to share with you our first version of this book, our cover. So here we go. I want to share that with you right now. I hope you're excited. Flashpoint presents Your Health Turnaround Story. Let's jump into this. I want to get to our guest right now. I am excited about this particular gentleman because I met him through someone that's becoming a close friend, a client, a mentor even for me. That's Marlon Mueller. Shout out to you, Marlon, in the Des Moines area, because Marlon connected me with Joe. And the moment I talked to Joe, I knew that there was something here. I knew that there was more for this gentleman, and I knew his message and his story needed to get out there. So that's what we're doing today. Let me tell you a little bit about Joe. In the short time that I've known him, what I've known, number one, he's passionate about wellness and fitness. Passionate. He oozes it. He lives it. He breathes it. It's in every moment of his life is about wellness. And let me give you a little bit about his background. He spent 25 years in the space. I'm honored and fortunate that I can bring people on that have immersed themselves over decades to master their craft. He was so successful at it that he's the former trainer of the Kansas City Chiefs, as well as the Kansas City Chiefs cheerleaders. What a job, Joe. We're going to be asking you questions about that. The Kansas City Blades. He's a published author. And I love this. He's a co-founder of the fitness ministry, Fit for the King. He has a strong spiritual connection. And I know beyond the shadow of a doubt, you are going to be blessed by what you're going to hear today. So without any further ado, I want you to give Joe the welcome he deserves. Let's see the hearts. Let's see some love. Joe, this is it, man. We finally made it here. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Austin. Thanks for the opportunity. It's awesome. Everything you just said is like, man, I'm feeling it. It's awesome.
Thank you so much, Joe. And we want our audience to feel it. And I want to encourage you to type in, say hello to Joe. Joe, you're out of the West Des Moines area?
Correct. I'm West Des Moines, Iowa. Currently, where it's like winter today. I mean, blustery, rain, snow mix, cloudy. But as I always tell my clients, it's sunny in the studio. It's sunny in here.
That's right. It's always that's a great one. So funny, we have this thing. It's always sunny in Philadelphia. It's always sunny in the studio. I love that.
Yeah.
Joe, I'm excited to dive into your story. The more I learned about you and what you're doing and how you're impacting people's lives, and I tell people we don't work hard anymore in our community. We work passionately, and I think you really embody that phrase. So I want people to get to know you, and I really want to get people to learn about where you come from, because after I went through the introduction, I don't think people have any idea like where you were, and I just want to get your permission. Are you willing to go back and share this incredible journey that you've had, and are you willing to do that?
Oh, absolutely. It's what's created me today. I'm one of the few that went through a storm, as you'll hear, but came out of it, and it's made me a much better person.
Yeah. And in our preliminary talks, before we got to this moment, because people don't realize there's a lot that happens for me to get Joe here. He's busy. There's a lot of work that goes into this. But I know in our preliminary stories, I mean, you share with me just some, it's just hard to wrap your head around when I see you here and I heard your story. It's just amazing. Like, how did you turn this around? But before we do that, I would love for people if you could go back to some of those earlier moments, maybe when you were at that pain point, when you didn't think it was going to turn around, and maybe take us through that if you're willing to do that.
Well, absolutely. I think I grew up in a background that a lot of people can relate to. But before I do that, I want to make sure that people listening is my parents are two people in my life that I love more than anyone and any other people. They've had an amazing amount of impact in my life. But their dysfunction really created a lot of adversity in my life. So I knew always that I was loved deeply, but yet I was constantly searching for it at the same time, if that makes sense. And, I grew up in a family where my parents neither were educated. They were hardworking people. They got married, my dad 18, my mom 16. And my dad was a coal miner working a hard life. A hard job that took him away from the family for weeks at a time. And my mother struggled with alcoholism. And, that was a recipe for disaster, an absentee father and a mother that struggled with addiction. In my family, we have 8 kids, and we grew up, Austin, in an environment that was very poor. I mean, we had 3-bedroom home, 8 kids, 2 parents, a father that worked in the coal mines, and a mother that struggled with sobriety. And that environment really created a lot of adversity in my belief systems, in my confidence I was the youngest of the children. And I was constantly looking for fulfillment and for acknowledgement and for purpose, even as a young kid. And because of the environment that I grew up in, my house kind of evolved forward. And unfortunately, my house became the place, Austin, people would come to purchase drugs, to do drugs, to sell drugs. And that was the environment that I grew up in.
Wow.
And I myself started using these drugs that were available in my environment at the age of 12. Wow. And I was drinking alcohol and using various types of drugs from the ages of 12 all the way up into my 30s. And I battled addiction because of that environment. And ultimately, I think that's one of the things that people, as we move forward, that people's past, as I tell them, really drives their ability to function in their present. And we don't always know how to deal with our past and the adversities and the challenges we go through. And ultimately, it's very reflective in our body, in our health, in our attitude, and our relationships, which we can get into as we move forward. But ultimately, that environment was very abusive, Austin. I mean, there were times where, I would go into my home and there were people strung out on drugs, using drugs. There was violence. I remember one time there was a fight between my brother and my sister that was because of drug usage, and my brother showed violence on my sister in a way that she had to be taken by ambulance to a hospital. And I was at the age of 7, and I was devastated. Those were the things that influenced me. That I didn't know, honestly, Austin, from day to day, what my life was. I just didn't have any stability or security, but I knew I was loved by my mom and dad, but yet I don't think they really even knew how to love themselves.
Right. And I think that's true for a lot of parents. And Joe, I really love the way you express this, because, and what I mean is, a lot of times we can be bitter about something that's happened, but I love the way this just speaks to you as a man, and how you're looking back on this, and you recognize this chaotic environment and it's amazing that you even survived, but somehow through it, you realize that, my parents, they loved me, but they just didn't know. They didn't know how. They were given the wrong tools, the wrong map, if you will. And so here you are growing up in this environment and going through such a devastating moment like that. Do you remember, like, did that cause you to do anything different? Did it cause you, was it a validation that it's not worth it just to go in the wrong direction? Like, do you remember?
Yeah, it all came to a point, really the darkest point of my life that I can remember, because I don't even really remember that guy anymore, Austin. But I do remember there was one moment of clarity in my life, the first time in my life that I ever cried out. And I was a kid that was, this was when I was in 7th grade summer. All the neighborhood kids were hanging around me. So I was the 7th grade kid that was providing alcohol and drugs to neighbors. And there were high school seniors coming and pursuing me. And I was at a party one night out in this field, this cornfield, and doing drugs and alcohol with all these older people. And we started getting into this drinking contest and marijuana, and I mean speed, and there was cocaine. There was all of the major heavy hitters. And I was pushing my body, and I went into a moment of unconsciousness and collapsed. And what I found was that all the party left because they were afraid of what to do. They didn't know what to do. And so the party dispersed, and I laid in a field by myself, not sure if I was going to live. And I remember that's the first time, Austin, in my life that I called out to God, who I only was afraid of. I didn't know him personally, but I had to call out that, please just give me today. Just get me through today and I'll do better. And what I recognized is that next day I was given life and an opportunity, and I took that seriously.
And you were 12 at the time?
12.
12 years old, and you're laying in a field.
Yeah. And this is stuff that I had to speak about with my parents later, and it crushed them both. It was a moment that it's so hard. It's painful. They weren't aware. They just weren't aware. And they did the best they can, to give me a roof and food, and that was provided. But ultimately, I was on my own. And so that happened. And what I decided is, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. And the only thing that I knew, instead of pursuing the habits and the daily things that I was doing that were devastating my life, I decided, instead of doing drugs, I'm going to start doing push-ups. Instead of drinking, I'm going to go and run.
And this is 12.
Yep.
Give Joe some love, everyone. This is an amazing story, Joe. I'm touched. I can't believe I knew your story, but I had no idea this happened when you were 12.
Yeah. It's a lot of people, they don't understand. And it's all due to environment. It's all due to the impact on, you become absolutely a reflection of what happens to you daily, Austin. And that's very indicative of people's current health. And that's what I'm coaching today.
Yeah.
But, ultimately what I decided was that I am not going to live this way. And what I've got to do is make some decisions. And the only thing that I knew is every time that I exercised, it gave me a feeling of sobriety, and that I felt like I was worth something. That this gives me something. Wow, I can run. Look at how many push-ups I can do. I have a great attitude today. I feel really different about who I am today, living in that exact same environment, still being around the drugs.
That's what I want to hit on.
Yeah.
That's what I want to hit on, because, okay, it's one thing to turn around. My goodness, you're 12, but I'm thinking about the environment. Like, I'm thinking, how did you be in this place with the drugs, the alcohol, and you're laying in a field, and then you call out to God, but then how do you grow out of your environment that was so toxic? Like, how did that?
Oh my goodness. There's so much, Austin. I could write a book.
It's in the book.
Buddy, it is amazing how good God has been to me, because even when I wasn't in faith with him, I was literally looking at him as somebody that could lead me, that I was hoping would lead me. And what he did, Austin, is he gave me mentors. He brought people into my life when I was getting ready to fall backwards. And because I didn't have the strength every day, I had to start every single day. Am I going to be sober or not? And it was laying around.
No moment. That's like, I got chills, because it's like, and we talk about this a lot.
Uh-huh.
And I just want to highlight this for people out there, to listeners. It doesn't matter what your age is, right? You make a decision that you're going to change. What we say, Joe, and I bet you could resonate with this, where every cell in your body knows that a decision has been made.
Oh,
right. Yeah. And then if you get into the Bible, the faith, the evidence of what you can't see. I can't see it, but then lo and behold, the right person or people start to show up in your life to start to change that environment.
Yeah. And what's really crazy about it, Austin, just to give you a little bit more depth of some moments that really created momentum. I was literally at one of my friend's house, and he was actually taken away from his parents because of abuse. and was living with some foster parents. And we were literally under the influence in his backyard, throwing a football. And just so happens, his foster dad comes out onto their deck and is watching us throw the football. And this is my 8th grade summer. And he said, "My goodness, you can throw that football and you can catch really well. Have you ever played football?" And I said, "No, I never played football. I love watching it though." And he goes, "Well, I'm the 9th grade football coach for the junior high, and I'd like you to come out and think about coming out to the junior high football team this fall." And his name was Don Tarr. He was the first mentor that this guy not only invited me to play football, but he followed up knowing my circumstances of my family. We lived in a small town.
So everybody knew everybody's business, right?
Everybody knew who the Tewells were.
Yep.
And when he found out I was a Tewell, he didn't avoid me. He confronted that, and he made sure I got to practice. And I'll never forget, Austin, the first day of practice, I'm walking onto this grass field where all these kids are, and they saw me walk onto the field. And I had some ratty gym shorts on and a T-shirt that actually had, it was a Nike, the old Nike symbol with faded and I mean tattered, and tennis shoes that the sole was hanging off the front, literally. And I remember these kids saying, "Oh my gosh, that drug kid, he's playing football." Coach Tarr, I'll never forget that. Coach Tarr embraced me, and he knew some of my potential. And we ran 40-yard dashes that day, and I ran 40-yard dash in those tennis shoes. I ran the fastest time on that.
Wow, that's awesome, Joe. I love it.
And that, when all these boys from the other side of the tracks, the athletes, the good kids that I had grown to despise because of my circumstances, I had to let that go too later. But those kids I despised, and they began to embrace me, and it started to change the trajectory of my heart, Austin. Not just my life, but my heart.
Joe, I love it. That's a powerful story. I'm really enjoying this turnaround, and how a coach, and I can relate to this story as well, having, people that are almost like divinely placed at the right moments, just in the nick of time, that can have such a profound influence on us. And we talk about people proximity in our community. That's the word we use, the phrase we use, and it's happening even when we don't know. But so now you play football, but now it's interesting because you have this football background, and then you must have been, when you became a trainer for the Kansas City Chiefs, that must have been, having played football, that must have been like a celebratory place, right? To come from there and then to be,
it's an amazing, and I want to get into that, but I want to finish one thing that I think is important for people.
Yes, please.
Austin, God provides people tiny little glimpses of great things. And unfortunately, not everyone has the open mind and the open heart to accept that can change everything about your life. And at the end of that football season, I'm living in a broken family. My parents were on the brink of divorce. Things were really bad. And to the point where I was going to be taken away from my parents. Coach Tarr wrote a letter and sent it to my family. And I carry that letter today. It's in my scrapbook. And here's what it said.
Oh, God. Yeah. You have the letter? We'd love to hear it.
I don't have it in front of me, but it's a paragraph. I have it memorized because it changed the heart, not only my heart, but the heart of my parents. They said, "Your son, Joe, has been such a blessing. Joe possesses the qualities in life that I hope someday my sons themselves will possess." And my parents,
wow.
I think it just changed everything when they had someone of influence say, "Your son is a young man of integrity, and he has qualities in him that I want my children to have. I mean, man, brother, Austin, it changed me to really pursue.
Yeah.
I got to start giving back, and I didn't even have anything to give.
Joe, what year was that letter? Like, how old were you?
That was 1980.
And what was your grade level at that time?
Ninth grade.
This was in ninth grade.
Yeah.
And this really speaks to what, we forget sometimes the influence that we have, and a kind word, a sentence, a phrase, something of encouragement can be a radical catalyst for someone's transformation. And Joe, this just speaks, but I got to believe that there was something in you. You had a heart. You were putting all this emotion and what had happened to you, and overcoming the drugs, and just putting this energy into football and playing and showing up. And that's what I'm sensing.
Yeah. I just developed an incredible appetite for success and an obsession. And in the book, I'm going to talk a lot about that obsession, because it wasn't healthy. But the pursuance of I was searching for was more important than balance in my life. And
right. I get that.
I just didn't want to be Joe Tewell in that version anymore. I didn't want to be, I knew I couldn't be that person. So I began to outwork everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like one extreme produces the other extreme, the opposite, because you don't want that ever again. You're going to drive to never have that happen again, never to experience that again, and to find that utopia. And I know that's a whole nother conversation and journey, but it's relevant to highlight it here.
So, if you want to move forward into, all of this, I went through another mentor. I went to college in Kansas City, Olathe, Kansas, Mid-American Nazarene University. And I got a job with Gold's Gym. And that was when Gold's Gyms were the Mecca. They were the Mecca.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the top athletes in the world, were at Gold's Gym. And I developed, I became a manager for Gold's Gym. I opened multiple locations. And in 1989, did a contract with the Kansas City Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs cheerleaders, and the Kansas City Blades. And this was at a time when they didn't have strength and conditioning coaches.
So, Joe, I just want to pause for a moment, and I just want to honor you for a second, because first of all, I want to thank you for sharing your story on this platform, because it's the core of who you are. It's your journey. And to share that transformation here is valuable. It's going to serve people. So I just want to take a moment to honor you. And I just want to ask people, if Joe's story is moving you, please share something, share something. What you share, you keep forever. What you keep, you lose forever. So if you're holding on to it, you might forget. You type it in, it'll be here. So type it in, and let's just honor Joe for sharing this, because somebody somewhere needs to hear this story. Right? And if you share it with somebody that you think needs to hear it, it could have a dramatic impact. Yes, Mandy will be joining us backstage, and Mandy is our spokesperson. She's going to help recap this, but just want to honor you there for a minute, Joe. Okay, let's get back to the story, and we'll bring it to a close, because I know you took time out of your day here, and I know you got limited time. So,
well, one of the things, the story doesn't end there. Because I continued, like a lot of people, Austin, to carry my past with me, kind of like in my back pocket. And whenever I was confronted with adversity or frustration, or life just didn't go the way I wanted it to, I tended to go right back into, well, you're not good enough. You grew up, you're above where your pay grade. You're not worthy. You've always been a loser. Those kind of things that was in my mind, that would always come back and create a very dark side of me. And, I still struggled with sobriety and obsession with my body. I mean, Austin, I trained many times, 2 and 3 times a day. And food, I mean, eating on a schedule, being focused, because what I wanted to be was not just a Gold's Gym manager. I wanted to be the Gold's Gym manager. I wanted to be the guy in Kansas City everybody knew. And I was, instead of doing it out of really my ability and doing it with grace and love and you know, I was doing it out of, I deserve this. I paid my dues.
Different narrative, right?
Yep.
Completely different narrative. And we talk about that, you know, and you probably relate to this. Like in my journey, I was coming from a place to prove, from lack, not good enough.
Yeah.
And then it shifts where you're coming from a place of peaceful power, where you deserve it.
Yes.
And it's a whole different energy, and it's healthy, and it's enriching, and it's, you know, it's God, you know, working through us is what I believe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, ultimately, I had a really long, successful career with Gold's Gym, and learned everything there is to know about fitness and fitness management and the whole industry, the good, the bad, the ugly. Met a lot of incredible people, famous people. I mean, I've gotten a lot of opportunities coming from a little small town, from an alcoholic home. So that was a real blessing. But, you know, ultimately, I still wasn't being fulfilled. And I want to tell you, skip forward a little bit and tell you when I really began to understand what wellness is. And ultimately, what I realized, Austin, I had built my own fitness empire in Des Moines, Iowa. I opened 2 gyms of my own brand, with my own doing, and built a very successful brand, and had a thriving business. And you know, that success was good for me. It began to really give me some permanent confidence. And I had a client that was a woman that was very deconditioned. Her body was very compromised, but she played a big role in a human resource role with one of the biggest companies in Des Moines. Now think about that. I'm going to train this woman who makes all the human resources decisions for one of the largest companies in Des Moines. That's going to blow my world up.
Cowbell.
Yep, it's going to blow it up. Well, when I met this woman, we laid out some goals. This is a 300-pound woman.
Wow.
Very broken, but yet, and you wouldn't know it because of her just mental challenge. I mean, just her mental and cognitive strength. But anyways, we're going through these sessions. She shows up late all the time. She doesn't work out on the days that I assign to her. She doesn't journal her food. And comes the day that she comes in, and I said, I've had enough. Because you know what? You're not doing anything to help me grow my business. I'm going to fire you today. And that was my mindset with her. So she came into the gym 5 minutes late, as always, hurried. And I said, you know what? Don't even change. Let's just go sit down for a moment. And long story short, I said, this isn't working. I'm going to assign you to one of my newer trainers, and you can finish your sessions and we'll just be done. And she sat there and she goes, oh, so you're like everybody else. You're just going to give up. And I said, well, what do you mean give up? You've never even tried. You don't do anything I ask you to do.
Wow.
And she, at that moment, everybody has a story, Austin. This woman who I perceived as this power player, as this woman that would be my ticket to lining my pockets and building my resume, pulls out a book. So you do journal. She's like, I want you to see something that you've never asked me about myself. Opens up this book and lays out this flow chart of a timeline of the times that she had been physically and sexually abused.
Oh,
here I am, Austin, about ready to fire this woman and tell her, you don't eat enough spinach and you don't run enough on a treadmill. That's why you have these problems. And that's when I began to get real about what health is. My goodness.
Well, thanks for sharing this.
That's not what I can have a doctorate in kinetics and physiology, but that doesn't address the pain and suffering in people's hearts and minds that drives their habits.
That's a powerful story, and that's a major, what Stephen Covey would call a paradigm shift.
Yeah,
You're coming in with a framework of what you think it is, and in an instant, you're just turned upside down, and it changes your perspective. And that had to change you in a deep, as you're sharing, in a deep and profound way. I just want to honor Michelle here, because she said, that's why I wasn't taking no for Joe being in this book.
Well, I tell you what I did at that moment, Austin, is break down. I broke down. And I was crying for her, but I was also crying for the blindfold over my eyes. How I've misled and hurt so many people by not truly helping them find where health is in their heart. It's in their heart. And I neglected that.
So after that experience, I would imagine things radically shifted for you. And I would imagine what you created from that moment was a lot different than what you had done before.
Absolutely. I quit asking people what they're eating and started asking them what's eating them.
Yeah. What's eating you? Well, that's a different approach.
And why are you here, and how did we get here? We're not going to talk about what I can offer you. Let's acknowledge how you got here today. Yeah. What are the things in your life that have created this? And what you
powerful.
We call that demolition at Fit for the King. You got to demolish the things that have taken you away from who you were created to be, and acknowledge your role in that. And then say, you know what, I'm not that anymore. I acknowledge my role, but I'm no longer going to be. I'm no longer going to be deterred from my purpose by who I was. It's now about moving forward and moving forward with doing the right things so that you can be exactly who you want to be. That's wellness. That's health.
That's a huge, huge transition. And as I'm doing this, the light is busting through my balcony window here. It's almost on cue to say, yes, that's exactly what we're looking for. So this is exciting. Joe, I want to do two things. I know you got a time constraint. I want to just give everyone an opportunity to connect with you. And I don't know if you do virtual. I know you have a location in Des Moines. I know you just took on a franchise. And then I'm going to bring Mandy on, our beautiful, eloquent spokesperson. She's just going to do a recap for us. And she may want to, share some things as well. So let me get your email in the box here.
Yes.
I'm going to share that with everyone. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to bring Mandy. Mandy, give me a thumbs up if you're ready. Okay, Mandy's ready. Here we go. Hello, Mandy.
Welcome, Joe. What a pleasure and an honor it is to have you here. And I'm fighting back tears. There's so much in your story that I can really.
Uh-oh, hope we got a good connection here. Are you with us, Mandy? All right, we may have to. That's okay. We'll give it. Let's try one more time here. Here we go. Oops.
Yes.
Just a heads up. I keep getting this message flash across the page that StreamYard is having a problem, and it's not my fault. So at least I feel a bit better about that.
Okay, we're gonna have to do an accelerated recap.
Okay. So love your passion, love your energy. Just want to quickly mention the Author Summit, Sunday, January the 23rd, 2022 at noon. Your whole story is so inspiring, so efficient. You were in a really bad storm with parents that were alcoholics, away with living in the coal mine. You brought out the point of you were looking for purpose and fulfillment, but you battled drug addiction, drug use at the age of 12. That was huge. And you brought out a beautiful point. Your past drives your ability to function in the present. And this comes out in the body, in your life and relationships. And this is where you managed to turn things around. You had no stability, no security, but you loved your parents. You were looking for clarity. Then you found yourself alone in this field. And this one time, you were 12 years old. You went unconscious. You were left alone, and you cried out to God. And I'm fighting the tears here. I really am. Darn. You cried out to God that if he would just help me right now, I will do an even better job. And it gave me goosebumps. The environment causes you to become what you face daily. And this is where you were at. So you reached out to him. You had to make new decisions. So you turned to exercise to gain a feeling of wellness, worthiness. And in that field, you brought out that you had this ability came to you to go into this. I guess a coach found you in grade 9. You were in tattered clothes. You were right in there, and you were showing the other kids, the good kids, shall we say, in inverted commas, you were showing them that you were going to be the fastest, you were going to be the best. And even though they were saying, oh my God, that's that drug kid, you were determined to change your life, and you did it. You embraced change. You talked about these foster parents, then you brought about this letter. I can't remember who the letter was from, but I do
Coach
remember
Tar.
it's, sorry?
Coach Tar.
Yeah.
Coach, okay, the coach. Yeah. This is where the tears might fall, hope not. He said, your son Joe is a blessing and has integrity. I hope his qualities can be passed on to my son. That is an incredible change in life and recommendation. And then you talked about developing an incredible appetite for success. Your searching at that point was more important than balance in your life, but you decided firmly and adamantly that you needed to change your life.
Wow. Powerful. Mandy's I'm going to see if she can come back on. If she joins us real quick again here, we'll have to get her connection issue fixed because, go ahead, Mandy.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm coming to the end anyway because it's anyway. So you talked about pain and suffering in people's hearts drive their lives and they don't know any different. And I know this only too well. I was in the last co-authorship, so it was a story on escaping domestic violence and abuse. Yeah. You spoke about crying for this lady. You felt the lady who was suffering abuse, and you were about to kind of dress her down for not eating and exercising correctly. But the blindfold was over your eyes. And it made you go back inside and realize how so many people you had not been able to help through the years. And you turned it all around to start to ask people, what's eating you? How can I help you from in here outwards? So I just want to honor you. Thank you profusely for being a part of this team. Thank you for bringing your story to the Health Turnaround book. I can't wait to work with you on the Inside Circle. Blessings, namaste, and thank you so much. I love you.
What a great person.
Man, you're going to make me cry, Mandy. And then she disappears. You see what she did?
I'm already crying.
Make 2 grown men cry, and then she exits,
Wow.
Joe, I'm going to give you a moment here just to, reflect. And hopefully Mandy and I are supposed to do the closing segment here, so hopefully we get connection. But, wow. I mean, isn't it, you hear your story back from someone else. What are you feeling right now?
Yeah. Wow. And I have a lot to do, Austin, a lot of people that are hurting. I mean, in our current situation where we are, our environments, our world right now, man, health has got to become the forefront. We got to get that message out that health is the key. It's not the way we look at our clothes. It's the way we connect with our kids, the way we love them, the way we carry ourselves, our attitude. I mean, it's important. It's an important message.
Yeah. Joe, I just want to tell you, you're a blessed man, and I value and honor your journey. God bless you, brother. And,
Thank you.
And I just want to encourage you to keep going. I'm honored to have you in the book. And I know it's going to be an incredible ripple effect as you continue to share your story.
Well, thank you, Austin. You know what? God brought you into my life, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm excited to work with you.
Yep. And I know you got a client coming in.
I do.
So I'm going to say, go continue to do great things. And I'm going to see if I can bring Mandy back on here to wrap up our show.
All right. I'll see you later. Ciao, guys.
Bye-bye. Mandy. Beautiful,
hey.
Mandy. So glad that you came on, and that was very moving. Joe is, I know he was touched by it, and it's, it's one thing to tell your story, but then to hear it back, to hear somebody reflect it back to you is just so powerful.
Yes, I know it is. I know it is.
I hope your connection sticks here. Okay, I'm gonna keep moving forward here with the show. We got a full hour. We need to fill this show up, and let me just check in with the audience and really see how they're feeling and what's coming up for you. And what do you think about Joe's story? Have you been in a situation where you thought thing was one way? With like the story with the woman at the gym when she's overweight and she's saying she wants to change, but she's late. She doesn't seem to be connected. And then Joe's about to say, listen, this is over. This isn't working. And she shares this incredible journey of what she had undergone and the abuse and how she was. And that's what you call kind of staying in the fray. When you got this, it's like you have this, it feels like you're carrying this incredible weight, but somehow you just keep going. And I think that's the message there. All right. So let me bring Mandy back on and see if we can wrap the show up today, Mandy. Is there anything you want to share before we get into a closing sequence here?
Just that I'm so moved. I'm in another space right now. I'm just so moved. The sun is pouring through my home here, and I'm just connected to the higher power through that story. There is, I can't get emotional, but I feel it hugely.
You're allowed to get emotional.
But I won't stop. No, this is what life is all about. It's touching people in here and hearing these raw, frayed, tattered stories of human souls, of which I was one there, but for the grace of God go I. And then finding an organization like Flashpoint and you, and an opportunity to write about and express the heartfelt story, the sentiments, the pains, the struggles, the flashpoint, the clarity point where you turn it all around and every cell in your body just fires that this is it. I can't do it anymore. I'm out of here. For me, it was my child, right? Seeing her suffer the way she was suffering, that's all I needed to change my life. And it was enough. But you just never know people's backgrounds. I used to be one of these people that would walk around judging people because I felt nobody cared about me, right? And yet we don't know what's going on in the other person's lives. We haven't walked in their shoes. They deserve our love and our support and our encouragement, and maybe just the kindness and the gratitude that we can have for the fact that they're even still on 2 feet. Maybe we can touch them here and say, I'm here for you.
Yes.
I love you. I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
Come on in. Keep the door open.
I want to thanks, Marlon. Joe lives his life to serve, and his coaching sessions, his passion flows. And I want to grab something here, a great little metaphor. And this could serve somebody right now. Is Joe talked about showing up for the practice in the tattered clothes.
Yeah.
Right.
I brought that out.
There's a diamond of a soul underneath of that.
Yep.
And your story that you've been telling yourself that you're not good enough is those tattered clothes that you just continue to put on, not knowing. And you just keep going. You're showing up with these tattered clothes, but there's a diamond of a soul inside of you. But the story wants you to think that this is it. Like that you look in the mirror and it's nothing but tattered clothes, but it's not. There's a diamond that rages beneath. And
Austin? It's also not just the tattered clothes and the pitifulness and the shame that he probably felt in those clothes. It was the peer pressure, oh my God, there's the drug kid. So much in that whole story was just pressing him down to the point that he could have just given up.
Yep.
But like you said, the diamond was in the story of survival and pushing through. On what foundation? On source energy, on God. His last frontier of hope was God, and he took it and he emerged and progressed forward. It's colossal.
Yeah. And sometimes that's the message, like everything that you thought burns down so that new seed can take root
Yeah.
and it creates something beautiful. So Mandy, we have 10 minutes left. We have a lot of exciting things in this community. As you can see, we are working passionately. We're excited to touch you, to reach you. And I'm going to turn it over to Mandy, maybe just to share a few of the things that we're working on. And also, Mandy, I want to make sure you highlight the weekly updates that we're going to be doing now.
Right. Yeah, we have so much on the go. It's Friday today. So Monday, we have a team meeting around 1:30, and then 5:30 every Monday. As a team for Flashpoint, we are going to highlight everything, all that's coming down the pipeline, all the success that we've mastered behind us, how we can learn from it, how we can grow through it, and how we can encourage you to move forward. And there's several ways that you can do this. Austin has a private community, Journey to Freedom, and within that community, he has a PDF, a gold nugget jeweled PDF. What's it about? It's about 9 questions that Austin formed on his journey, on a sojourn trip across the US last year. And these 9 questions he developed to not only help you to find the limiting belief in there, but also to eradicate it and get rid of it and replace it with beliefs that are now going to serve you. So we're inviting everybody on here that hasn't already done so to go into the Journey to Freedom group, pick up the PDF for the 9 questions, and from there you are coming into our community. And that's complimentary, by the way. That is just so surreal. It's complimentary.
Yeah.
Everything to gain, nothing to lose.
Complimentary.
Cowbell moment, right? And then we have another program going on in there, which is the ACT program. So it's accountability, community, and coaching that leads to transformation. And you talked in Joe's story about people proximity and his mentor and the difference it made in his life, his coach. This is how it is in our community. You're an incredible coach, Austin, and you have other coaches. And we're taught to become accountable for our actions. What are we doing that's serving us? What's not? Who's going to hold us accountable for, well, maybe you could do this or suggest that? That's what happens in this community. And you have right now, you're looking for 8 people. You have 2. So Carrie, we've got Carrie and Marlon, and you're looking for another 6 people to commit to that ACT program and gain the most from it. Now, if you are a member of the private group, you can join the ACT calls, which are every other week. We have 4, I think it is, that are left to the end of the year. That is complimentary too, for you to come in and listen and learn and watch and grow. And Austin will often give you the opportunity to comment as a guest and you can comment in the chat room too. Yes. So you have a complimentary, amazing opportunity to take advantage of an area that is lacking today, and it's here in this community. Austin's also working on a private retreat, which is happening in February 2022. He's looking for 8 people. And as soon as he's got 8 people honed in, pinned down, as I want to say, then he can firm up the venue and all the details. That is going to be on relationships. Presence, I think, was the other one.
Power of Pure Presence.
Power of Pure Presence. That was it. Can you imagine what we're going to learn in an intimate group
from each other?
And learn from each other and grow and enjoy nature, get out of the winter. I can't wait to leave a Canadian winter, seriously, just for once.
Just for once, that's right.
What else have we got going? I mentioned
we got the
co-author summit, right?
We got the co-author book. Actually, I'm going to share that right now.
Yeah,
real
sure.
quick. I'm going to share. We still have a few authors that we could use. We're vetting these authors for the book. Let me. So that's the book that Joe is going to be writing his story in, and we have some other openings. So if you have a great health turnaround story, a turnaround story, we want to get that in the book to highlight your story. So that's available as well. And just a footnote, we have the next ACT call is next Thursday. I'm not sure if you shared that,
right.
Mandy. But
I did. Yeah, next Thursday.
It's complimentary. You can come into our community, and Marlon's in there. Marlon's
Marlon
Marlon's
Kerry.
building his brand. He's just a farm boy from Iowa who became a multimillionaire, and he's got a great story. And we're going to be excited to work with him.
Great human beings. Kerry and
Yeah.
Marlon, great human beings. Yeah.
Yes. So we are about 5 minutes left. Let's hear from the audience. If you let's type in, just type in the word Flashpoint if you're ready for that breakthrough. If you're ready to take a step, if you're ready to say, this is it. Like if you've had that moment or you're leading up to that moment where you do want to make that transition. And I want to call everyone, because a lot of times we can live in this lukewarm place and we may create all these reasons why we can't do something. And if you're judgmental, like, I used to be, and sometimes that judgmental mind can creep in. You're judging on, I can't do it because, I can't do it because, I can't do it because. What would incite you to say, I can do it because, I can take a step because? So type in the word Flashpoint. We want to get you in the private community, complimentary. And I just had a conversation today, speaking about wellness. Well, another woman that you're going to meet, Jessie, she creates healthy food, and she's going to be sharing healthy food dishes for the Thanksgiving. So she's going to have some healthy food. So there's all kinds of great things that we share in that private community. And we want to welcome you in, take a step, because I think, Mandy, you shared this. Einstein said, nothing happens until something moves.
That's right. Yes. Nothing happens until something first moves.
So we need you to move.
We do. We need you to take that first step. Just like Joe said, when he was alone in that field and he felt like his life was about to end. He cried, and he's not a religious person. He never believed in God, but in that moment, he cried out to God as a last step of hope. And he grabbed the horns. He grabbed the bull by the horns, so to speak. And it was taking that one little step that led him to his turnaround, to his change. And that's all it takes. One tiny step becomes 2 tiny steps, becomes 3, becomes 4. And before you know it, your whole life has grown and turned around, and you're living in passion, on purpose, and feeling fulfilled and serving others. This is what I want for you. This is what Austin and every member of this team wants for you. So just do it. Take the step. Come and join us.
Yeah, so we're going to wrap up here. The other thing that we do have, which we've been doing every day, we have what's called the Gratitude Manifesto. I'll share just a little clip of that. We do this every morning at 8 a.m. So that's our little animation to kick off the show, just give you a little visual. That's every morning at 8 a.m. It's a 10 to 15 minute show. It's going to run between now and the end of November. There is some really great nuggets in there about gratitude in there. We had another great show today. So, Mandy, we just have a lot of exciting things. There's no shortage of opportunity for somebody to get something of value in what we're creating. I mean, we are just putting so much out there.
We're creating options that are doable, accessible. Yeah.
Right. And the more options you have to the viewer, the more options you have in your life, the more empowered you're going to feel. Now, there's a point where you can have too many options. But what I found is when it comes to life change and transformation, people don't give themselves enough options. They only create limitations. So we want you to create more options for yourself. And this is one way to do it. I want to thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of today's show. Flashpoint, your turnaround story starts here. And maybe it's time for you to take that step.
Take the step.
And just believe that you can create that flashpoint moment. Mandy, I want to thank you so much for doing a beautiful recap that you did.
Thank you.
And being a part of our community. And I just want to highlight your books coming out at the end of the month on poetry.
Yes. Catalyst.
Right?
Catalyst. Yes. My first book of poetry with my photography. Yeah.
Yep. All right, everyone.
God bless.
God bless.
Thank
Bye
you.
for now.
Bye.